take a picture of the board if you have not taken a picture of the board yet. The picture of the board is blank. I'm fully aware of that. And the goal is by the end of class, it's no longer blank. Now, per student request, any picture that is on tomorrow's test will be hand-drawn by me because you guys have said, like, sometimes when I clip art pictures in, they don't match the exact thing, and this is how you learn it the best. So, like, I will just hand draw any picture that you see for tomorrow. The next thing to know, not all of this is on the test in picture form. It's all on the test. It's just not one gigantic piece of paper that looks like this and says go. Okay, so it absolutely is broken down into its sections. Things that I want to make sure I mention so I do not forget. 1, your NICC review is due tomorrow. Okay, so the NICC review is due tomorrow. If you have not done the NICC review, I strongly suggest getting that done before I see you tomorrow, so I don't have to put a 0 because the 7-day late thing still exists in this trimester. Okay. 2, use the Remind text tonight. Use the email system tonight. Ask me questions. Okay, if you have first period prep, so do I. So, like, come in and ask if you have questions. If you have first lunch, I can help you study during first lunch. So, like, whatever I can do to help you for tomorrow. I think the biggest thing that's going to get in your way for tomorrow's test is you and your stress levels. So, however I can help you de-stress, I will.
What do you have second?
Forensics. Okay. So the biggest thing that I want to start off with right now is just photosynthesis. We're going to try and break this down as much as we can. So we're going to start with photosynthesis. In the most basic form, photosynthesis has the following thing. And it's so therapeutic. Photosynthesis has to have light, okay? So in its most basic form, we have to have light. We have to have 6 water molecules, 6 carbon dioxide, and that gives us 6 oxygen and 1 sugar. So that would be in its most basic form, okay? So in its most broken down, as simplified as I can get form, that's photosynthesis. And if you can remember that, it's going to help you on tomorrow's test because you can double check it. In fact, it would be my strong suggestion to all of you, when you get the test, write it right on there. Like, I wouldn't even wait. I'd put my name and I'd put the formula down, because then you can use that to double check that you have all the pieces you need. I don't care where the hell you write it, just write it down. Now, we're going to break each of these pictures down, okay? Photosynthesis is an overview. So this is like the big overview photosynthesis. We know that the reactants to photosynthesis are light, okay? So I know I need light. I know I need 6 water molecules. And I know I need 6 carbon dioxide, and I recognize I am rewriting this a million times, but we're going to get it. Light and water go into the light dependent. And that occurs in the thylakoid. So in this overview, in this big picture, we know that light comes in we know that we have to have 6 water molecules. We now know that this right here is the thylakoid. I knew I spelled that wrong. We know that in its just most raw form, we are producing oxygen. So one of our products down here is going to be the 6-oxygen. So right now we are just focusing on these. Okay. This whole top half is called the light-dependent reaction. This is the light-dependent reaction. So if I am labeling this blue part right here, this is the light-dependent. Now, the light-dependent has its own electron transport chain because you can see that the electrons are transported across a membrane. The reason that I don't call it the electron transport chain, and I really only call it light-dependent, is because cellular respiration has its own electron transport chain. That's only called the electron transport chain. So we're just focusing on the light-dependent reaction right now, okay? All of this is in the thylakoid. So everything that we were talking about right here is in the thylakoid. Look at what it needs. It needs light. So we've got to put light into this equation. So if we are looking at this, light. Light. So right off the bat, we know that light is entering from outside of the cell. It's coming in. The arrows show that it is coming in. We have light entering into the thylakoid. The other thing we need is water. So in the light-dependent reaction, the other thing that we need is the water molecule. So if we come down here and we look at these two kind of broken pieces, we can take that water molecule and add it in. That is, at the very most basic level, gonna get you some points. But you're better than that. Because if you look at water right there, and you know that it has to produce oxygen. I have 2 blanks right here. 2 blanks. Well, what are the 2 components to water? Hydrogen and oxygen. So, 15 is leaving the cell. What do you know? So does oxygen. Oxygen leaves the cell. Hydrogen doesn't. And if you could figure out the 2 parts that make up water, you just figured out 16, 21, and 22. So all together, notice they're all connected. So like that hydrogen molecule, it travels. And I'll remind you of the story here in a second. But that hydrogen molecule travels. So boom, right there. And you just filled out half of the picture. So like that's a win. And all you knew was light, water, and oxygen. So we got places with that. Now we have to fill in the rest of the story. Overall, within the thylakoid, okay, scientists discovered photostem 2 after they discovered photostem 1. So 2 actually comes first. And 1 comes second. So this is ultimately saying that like we start in photosystem 2, okay, and then we travel into photosystem 1. Now, here's the story. As light shines into the photosystem 2, the little electrons that live inside are super excited because that light just delivered the best news ever. They're going to Disney World. And as with any children, you get excited if you get to go see Mickey and Minnie. So the electrons are so super excited that they are bouncing all over the place. Here, there, everywhere. They cannot contain their excitement. And because they're so excited, Harry and Olivia get in a fight. Because Harry wants the kids to be excited. Olivia does not. She's a bit stricter. So Harry and Olivia get in a huge fight and they split. Olivia storms out of the house and leaves. Harry, however, watches his kids. So Harry travels along. So do the kids. The little electrons travel along on their road trip because flying is expensive. We gotta have some boundaries on this trip. So they travel along and we get to photo system 1. And they're tired and they're hungry. And are we there yet? Harry says we need to take a break. As everybody does when their children are whining. We need to take a break. So, we take a break.
Sorry, I looked at last trimester's schedule and thought you had prep. Carry on.
More light comes in. We refuel the car. The kids get to pee. They get snacks and candy because it shuts them up. If this sounds a little too familiar to your own road trips, sorry about that. The electrons are so excited again because now they're on a sugar high. So they're so super excited. And Harry goes, maybe you need to go to a babysitter instead. So the little electrons get so super excited they find Natalie. Ta-da, Natalie. And Natalie is positively sure she can handle this. NADP positive. Positively sure she can handle this. So she says, you know what? Come on, I'll take the little electrons the rest of the way. You take a break, Harry. And when she combines with the little electrons, when NADP positive combines with the electrons, she has them. Has with an H. So she has the electrons. Because she positively said she could. Well, now Harry doesn't know what the hell to do with himself. So Harry continues to just wander along because Harry is lonely. And what happens to lonely people? They make bad decisions. So Harry goes into the ATP synthase. He sees a bright, glowing sign that says ATP synthase. He's sinner. So he goes in to the synthase. And as Harry goes into the synthase, ADP becomes ATP. Because what do sinners do at sinful places? They give their money to the people on the inside. So they get re-energized, they get more full, they get new life. So ADP, that empty wallet, becomes full again. Thank you, Harry. But of course, that is not where the story ends. So, right there with photosynthesis light dependent, just the light dependent, we have in fact made oxygen. We also inadvertently have made NADPH, and we made ATP. Both of these molecules, both of these molecules are about to go into the stroma, So both of these molecules are going to carry off into the stroma. And within the stroma is the Calvin cycle. So both of those things are about to leave and they're going to go into the Calvin cycle. Are you with me so far? Okay, so now again, if we go back to just like this big picture overview that we've made right here, we just made ATP and NADPH. Remember, the P is in photosynthesis. We're not going to have that when we go into cellular respiration. What are we missing in our reactants? If we come back to this, we're missing carbon dioxide. So now we need to focus on carbon dioxide and sugar. Okay, so we are now traveling over. But let's just look at this real quick, because again, if we can understand the overview, we can understand it in detail, or at least we can understand enough to get points. I didn't say 100% is necessary, we just need points. So, we haven't used carbon dioxide, which means that right here, step number 3 is carbon dioxide. So here is where our 6 CO2 enter. We know that the Calvin cycle is right here, okay, and it occurs in the stroma. And the only thing we haven't produced was that sugar molecule. This whole entire thing takes place in the chloroplast. So that's where this is taking place. So now we're headed into the stroma. Okay, so everything that we're talking about now is in the stroma. So we're in this bottom half. Okay, well notice the first thing that has to come in. It's 6 carbon dioxide. So in this situation, number 25 up here, this right here, this is our 2,3 carbon molecules. So we have 2, 3 carbon molecules. Okay, and those 2, 3 carbon molecules can enter into the stroma because of this, RUBP. Okay, so they can enter in because of RUBP. RUBP, again, it's another enzymatic thing that we have inside our bodies. It just carries in the carbon dioxide. It allows it to go through the Calvin cycle. So we will regenerate it, but it is used every single time that we go through this cycle. Okay? The reason that my picture looks a little bit different than it normally does in our notes is because it's not like, and in this tiny little spot is carbon fixation. This whole thing, the entering of carbon dioxide, this is carbon fixation. So this step number 1, like where all of this is kind of taking place, and the reason that I drew it like that, this is carbon fixation. On a test for carbon fixation, it would look like any type of multiple choice, true, false, matching, fill in the blank, something that would say like, and what is happening during carbon fixation? Carbon is entering into the Calvin cycle. Okay, so like, again, I'm not gonna make every single one of these questions a picture because I know how overwhelming that would be for some of you.
Is there anything special we need to also know about RUBP, or we just need to know like enters in?
RUBP basically carries it in and we regenerate it. That's it. Okay, so now as we have all of this taking place, and again I drew my picture a little differently. This is happening at the same time. Okay, so like 27 and 30 coming in is happening at the same time, and what's happening is ATP. Remember, we just created ATP and NADPH. They're coming in. So here's where ATP and NADPH come in. Okay? We're using them up. Okay? So they're coming in and we are using them up. And whenever we use ATP, it becomes ADP. And whenever we use NADPH, it becomes NAP positive. Oh my gosh, NADPH. Whoops.
Does it matter what order you write them in, or if we say we had to label on a test, can we write, like, say we wrote NADPH comes in first, and then...
Like you put NADPH up here?
Yeah.
That would be okay.
Okay.
This is in my way, so I'll just move it and rewrite it when I get there. Okay, all of this is happening during step number 2. So step number 2, okay, is called reduction. And that's because it's reducing what's going on. So it's just reducing it and rearranging it. Yes. All of this in step 2 is producing glucose. It's producing glucose. Okay, so we have officially made glucose, which ideally, like, glucose is a 6-carbon sugar. So, like, I know I'm into a different step, but just so you can visualize it, like, our glucose is 6 carbons, okay? So we have 6 carbons because it's C6H12O6, okay? So, like, that is what we're making here. I won't get more into that yet. Okay, but we have to get to step number 3. We have to keep going in this cycle. So step number 3, excuse me, is regeneration. Okay, so we're regenerating RUBP. We're making more RUBP, and we do that by just taking in some more ATP. And yes, if it helps for like the picture purposes, this is the Calvin cycle. Are you with me on photosynthesis? We have hit photosynthesis hard, team. So if I had to, like, where is Miss Sangera going to put more on the test in regards to like the visualization picture part? Photosynthesis, because I had a voice. I had a voice and we went through it so much better. Okay? We're gonna get into cellular respiration where we didn't really have a voice. So it's not gonna be as heavy. Still tested, just not as heavy. Allison?
Are we gonna have like all of these pages on the test?
No, that would take forever. Remember, we still have to do it in class period.
So which ones are we gonna have?
I feel like I just told you where to put those eggs.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Okay. Photosynthesis is now done. So now we have to talk about what comes next. Sorry, I gotta make more room on the board. So when we look at cellular respiration really is the flip-flop of this. So we have 6 oxygen molecules, 1 sugar, and we do not fart out rainbows and sunshine and light. So like we just produce 6 water and carbon dioxide. I don't need any of it. Our cellular respiration story is going to start by focusing right here on this sugar molecule. Okay? And by the time we finish with this sugar molecule, we'll produce water. The thing is, the sugar molecule has to go through quite a bit. It's not like an easy, like 1, 2, 3, and all of a sudden we're into cellular respiration. So, we need to go here, okay? And I'm just gonna erase this. I know, just because it's in this picture, and I'll just move it. Okay. Glucose in its raw form at 6 carbons is not something that we can use. We can't use this, okay? So what we need to do is we need to break it down, okay? In order to break it down, we have to basically catabolism. Catabolism. Remember, catabolism is like catastrophe, meaning to break. So we must break it down. Okay, so that's what we are about to do. We are about to break it down. The very first thing that we have to do to break this down is we have to add in ATP. And when we do that, okay, so when we do that, it produces 2 3-carbon molecules. Right here, okay, so the carbon is the black, we have 2 3-carbon molecules. Carbon molecule, 3 of them. The pink on the end, number 40, what it is pointing to is phosphate. So this is just pointing to a phosphate that's on the end, okay? It's there because it is there, but for you and like test purposes, ultimately I need you to know that it goes from 2 3-carbon molecules to pyruvate, okay? Because that's ultimately our goal. Our goal is to make 2 pyruvate molecules. So right down here, and I apologize for anybody in the back because I know there's so much in your way, but we have 2 pyruvate. Again, all of this is kind of happening at the same time. So the order in which you put this, if this was a picture, I don't care. What I care about is, do you know what's going in? Do you know that NAD positive is going in? And do you recognize that NADH is coming out? Do you recognize NADH? Remember, associate them together. If you have NAD positive, you have ADP. Okay, so you have the used up version. So you have ADP, and it becomes ATP. Okay, so like, again, however you put them in the order, I do not care. You just need to know that those are your energy sources that are entering at the same time. Now the pyruvate are going to continue on. So the pyruvate are going to go somewhere. Where they go depends on the environment. If there is no oxygen, so if it is anaerobic, no oxygen is present, where is it going? Fermentation. I didn't have room. There's no fermentation on the board. If we think of fermentation in its like most, again, basic form, pyruvic acid in lactic acid fermentation gives you what? Lactic acid. Pyruvate in alcoholic fermentation gives you alcohol and carbon dioxide. Okay? So like, think of fermentation, think multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, not, picture, think that. Okay? Like, that's what I want you to think when you think fermentation. Now, we're going to go into but it has oxygen. We're going to go into aerobic. You need to turn in, you just voicing me. You're good.
Should be good, I think.
Okay.
That'll be okay.
Okay. So if oxygen is present, okay, so if oxygen is present, we're going to come over here into our prep step. It doesn't have a great name. It's just the prep step. There goes Audrey's nose. Dang it. Sorry. I need space, people. So number 50 is a follow-up of 49. We took that 2 pyruvate and we brought it up here. So we have 2 pyruvate. Our goal in this 2 pyruvate is to reduce this down into acetyl coenzyme A. Okay, so again, even if we just looked at like the bare basics of all of this, we have 3 carbon here, 2 carbon. So like this 54 really is just 2 carbon. terrible color sign.
Wait, this is when there is oxygen?
Yes, this has oxygen. This color should work. So like oxygen, aerobic, that's where we went. How do we go from 3 to 2? We release carbon dioxide. Okay, so we release carbon dioxide.
So that's 53.
53 is carbon dioxide. Yep. Now, to go from 2 carbon molecules into acetyl coenzyme A, we need to add 2 coenzyme A. Okay, so we are adding in 2 coenzyme A's. And ultimately, we're getting acetyl coenzyme A. Like, that's what's happening. Of course, we have an energy source that's being used. Okay, so that really ultimately is our prep step. And now this acetyl coenzyme A is going to go into the Krebs cycle, or it's called the citric acid cycle. You will have both on the test tomorrow, so do not panic. I will literally put them both for you. Okay? Let's say like Krebs/citric acid cycle. We shouldn't worry. What happens is acetyl coenzyme A, you can kind of see, like follow my little purple arrow. It comes in, and then coenzyme A goes out. So like really we just want the 2 carbons. Like that's ultimately all we want. Coenzyme A brings it in and then it leaves. And these 2 carbon molecules connect with these 4. So maybe I should have drawn them a little more connected, but pretend like I did. They're connected, and that gives you 56, which is citric acid. Now, for my you lost me. There are too many names. There's too much happening in this picture. Here's what I want to tell you is how you can Zangify this. And you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 of them. I'm not trying to be a jackass. You know I'm not. That's not my style. There are 6 of them. Follow the arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 of them. How did I go from 6 to 5? I lost one. I lost one in the form of carbon dioxide. I mean, ultimately, like if that's where you're at for tomorrow's test, be there. It will get you points. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. How did I get from 5 to 4? I lost a carbon dioxide. Okay? So like ultimately, if we just focus on the number of carbon molecules and we're following that cycle around, you're going to be able to tell me that we just produced carbon dioxide. So like right here, we just produced carbon dioxide. Okay. Now we got to add in a bunch of energies. Here's the positive. For the energies, quite a few of them are the same. So that's like a helpful win, right? I mean, like that helps. So within the energies, and I don't want to mess this up, right? Okay. It's NAD. Three of your energies point blank are all NAD positive. Okay? So like that's a helpful hint. When in doubt, NAD positive. You know the flip-flop. You know to add an H. You know that's the energized version of it. Now you have 2 different energies left. I mean, when in doubt, guess it out. ATP. I mean, right? So, like, if I have NAD, I have ADP. It makes ATP. The only one that is different, and I know it like throws everything off, is FAD. FAD is here. So I know like the FAD does throw everybody off, and that's okay. But at least 3 of them are NAD, right? So like that's kind of like a win. Kind of? Okay. No? Maybe?
I first, does it matter where, like, so, like, why does the FAD go with, like, the 4?
Like, it just, this is like the part in which we use this enzyme.
Okay.
Now, if you had flip-flopped like these, that wouldn't matter. But you have to have FAD at this point
Yeah,
of the cycle.
okay.
Yes, because that's where we need the extra enzymes. Remember, FAD and NAD are enzyme carriers. And they accept electrons and they carry electrons. So like this is where we need a little more electron support. Obviously, ATP being our energy source is where we just kind of added in over here. Remember, electrons are also used to energize things because those electrons create the gradients that allow things to move. So like, yes, you could interchange these, but no, you have to have FAD over here. So if you accidentally put it over here, yeah, that would be wrong.
2/3 of it though is pretty much
But,
the exact
yes.
same.
2/3 of it is NAD positive.
And ADP.
So like that's a win.
Yeah.
Okay. We have this is left, okay? So the thing that we haven't made yet, because we made carbon dioxide, we haven't made this water molecule because I mean we made this. So now we gotta make this. We used this, we haven't used this. So Harry's story isn't over. Harry misses Olivia. And he has been wandering aimlessly amongst the mitochondria looking for Olivia. Yeah, I know, it's rough. You know, like he just misses her. So he has to wander to look for her. So the whole goal of the electron transport chain is reunification. How do we do that? Why do any two parents get back together? Their children! So, the electrons are back into play. Okay, so electron transport chain. Why are we so super excited? Because the electrons are back. Okay, so the electrons are like little instigators. So they're like helping out the whole entire thing. I mean, think of Parent Trap. It's such an instigative movie, okay? And if you haven't seen it, watch it. The little electrons are super excited and they're also helping out. And as the electrons get super excited, they create the concentration gradient that allows Harry to wander in and wander out and wander in and out. So like they're helping out Harry. They want to help out their dad. So he can go in and out. So Harry, 74 and 75. Harry can go in the cell and out of the cell. So Harry can leave because the concentration gradient allows him to, but Harry is still super tempted by that sin face. So there are some times when Harry maybe strays away. I mean, Olivia did leave him, for crying out loud, so give Harry a break. So sometimes he sins and goes back in through the synthase channel. And remember, anytime Harry goes to sin, he creates ATP because he's got the money and he fills up that wallet and he's a sinner for that, okay? So anytime Harry goes through that, ADP becomes ATP. But that really doesn't reunite Harry and Olivia. To reunite Harry and Olivia, they come to the call of their children. The little electrons are constantly bouncing all over the place, and they bounce back into the arms of Harry and Olivia to make one happy family. Hooray! So we've made water, and Harry and Olivia are fine until they go through the process of photosynthesis where they separate again. But don't worry, they will always get back together and separate and get back together and separate. And Harry will be a sinner for the rest of his life.
So,
Just so you have all of that clear. Now, yeah, Julia.
he can become, if he leaves and goes back in through ATP synthesis, becomes ATP. But can he go back through, or is that just saying he doesn't leave?
No, he just kind of wanders looking for Olivia, and then he sins his way back in.
No, so when he makes H2O.
Oh, yeah, remember, he is part in here, so that just means he didn't leave.
He didn't leave. Oh,
His
that's
kids
what I
called to him, and he didn't leave to become a sinner. He stayed. Okay, now, all of this, of course, is not without the energy that we just created up here. So if we look at that, we just created these energy sources. So these energy sources come in down here. Again, in no specific order, I do not care, they're interchangeable, but FADH and NADH come in with the little electrons, because remember, they're the electron carriers. They have the electrons, and they're like, go, find your parents, little electrons, be free. And that step of the whole entire thing creates the most energy. Okay, please note that the electron transport chain creates most of the energy found within our bodies. Because it is in the mitochondria, the whole goal, yes, obviously, is to breathe so we can live. However, it's to create the energy. You need to have the energy in order for us to survive.
Will there be that table that we have to put that you made or whatever, that you have to put this happens, and this happens, this.
No, but that's another good tool to use is the table. Okay,